Now, the second edition of the Financial Economic Seminar organized by the Financial Economic Institute Africa is set to take place tomorrow, 28th of June. The seminar is aimed at finding long-term solutions to most of the finance and economic challenges confronting developing economies, including Ghana. The focus of this year's seminar is the impact of socio-economic policies on trade and industries in developing economies. One of the main speakers is Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Dr. Stephen Amwa. He joins me in studio to discuss this. I find the theme, and welcome to our studio, so I find the theme of the seminar very interesting, especially at the time where industry is facing difficulty. First quarter figures saw a contraction. Explain to us why policies that are put in place are critical in bolstering the performance of industry and, for that matter, trade.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think the economy or performance of every country, any country in the world, cannot be separated from the performance of the industries and trade. Mm-hmm. They are very strong correlation, very strong and positively correlated. Once one is going down, one goes up. And the policies of the authority or any government in the world impact the performance of the industry in that country or trade, especially in the area of monetary policy and in the area of fiscal policies. Mm-hmm. You realize just right now, I was shocked, it's just coincidentally, an actor, a relevant stakeholder, was just alluding to the fact that interest rates are too high and they are affecting industries. Yeah. This is what we are talking about. Yeah. It's not the doing of the Bank of Ghana or the government or whatever to have the intention of increasing interest rate or not. There are policies to be made. For instance, there's one major fundamental anomaly in managing our monetary policy in Ghana. And as I'm talking to you, even UK, just go and read. It's still creating the same controversy. The use of monetary policy to curtail our inflationary rate. Mm-hmm. Mostly when inflation is going up, authorities raise interest rates to curtail the inflation by withdrawing money and stabilizing the economy. But where sometimes the anomaly is not actually finding the cause of the inflation. Because the cause will determine whether it should go up or down to affect interest rates.
It's interesting to bring this up because the point has been made that the inflation we are experiencing is imported. And so trying to target inflation the way the central bank does not work.
Even if they say it's imported and exported, yes, practically if you come down. But the issue, the actual terminology or the words to use practically is whether it is demand pull or cost push. Demand pull is when people have money and they are spending happily, they are excited and so much circulation. Then you raise interest rate to move the money back and stabilize the economy. But if it is cost push, one of the components or elements of the cost push is what they are talking about. It is from supplier's end. So you cannot necessarily raise interest rate all the time. Once you do that, we call something strategic drift, where you have a strategy, but it's rather aggravating your problem. And that is why when interest, in fact, during even the previous regime, I had the same encounter. And this regime to the same, even here, this table. Mm-hmm. That when inflation was around 15.7, we had policy rate around 12 point something. We started moving with the intention of curtailing inflationary rate. And inflationary rate moved up to about 40. So then it will tell you that the cause of your inflation is not necessarily as a result of demand, but it's cost push. So once you increase interest rate, which is also another cost variable in doing business in Ghana, you are aggravating the problem because interest rate is a cost variable. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
I understand.
That is where the challenge is. So this seminar is talking about a number of different policies and also address even the unsustainable risk factors. That is company specific, what the industry players themselves do fundamentally wrong that they are not doing well. But the concentration would be on government policies. Our integration within the sub-region, what do we do? What are our policies in terms of government priorities in reducing expenditure, even at that level when it comes to fiscal? So it is when the government is able to manage the fiscal policies very well and manage the monetary policy, by the government, Bank of Ghana, is doing so much because our situation is very peculiar now. The Bank of Ghana is doing well, but we need to review some of the policies and try to change, introduce new paradigm shift. And how do the industry players also position themselves to embrace these changes? Other than that, we'll keep on financing the industry, we'll keep on doing a whole lot of things, attaining that import-driven substitution, which comes as a result of most of these fundamental anomalies, and because we are importing everything, we are not able to employ people, we don't create our own, entrepreneurial ecosystem that will support businesses or warriors. And that's what we're doing. So it's the second edition. We did the maiden edition. We had speakers from Pakistan, Switzerland. This time we're having all Ghanaians and one Nigerian professor who happens to be a lecturer here. If I had a department, so it's going to be very interesting.
I can imagine. And you talk about reviewing of some policies. The IMF program, for instance, has caused government to review certain policies. We've seen tax measures being roped in and all. And for industries, more like a death sentence. How do you manage that situation to ensure that, like you say, industry is thriving and the economy is also doing well?
What I was saying was that I'm not saying industry is thriving, the economy is doing well. What I said meant what you said, but what I'm trying to say that when industry does well, when economy does well, economic policies are good and economy does well, industry does well, or industry does well. If the economy is not doing well, the industry will not do well. That's why I talk about the strong correlation. I didn't get your question clearly.
So I'm asking about the IMF program. The coming in of the IMF program, we see that there are some conditionalities with which industry is going to be impacted by. For instance, the new tax measures was a prerequisite. They are saying that is going to be problematic because the high taxes and all are going to impact on production. And I'm just saying that these are some of the things the government has to tackle in coming out with policies as well, because they need to get the economy back in shape. So how do you...
Let me explain that to you. Maybe we don't have enough time, but I want to make it like layman's view, and if we have to, I'll do the technical. It's just like your child has convulsion. Your child, unexpectedly started having this convulsion. There are medicines that you can use properly in the long term, and there are decisions and approaches or techniques you can adopt, or even medicines that in the short term, it will have to resuscitate the child, and the child will die. So when it comes to these policies, where Bank of Ghana and the government itself thinks it will help us is that some of the policies we are taking today will not augur well for the industry players as Ghanaians. They will bring hardship. But long term, because if you don't take, probably the economy will collapse entirely. Our fiscal space is messed up. And it's not only Ghana. I'm not comparing Ghana to UK. Okay. But I make this statement because we depend on them economically, because they are a giant economy. Their interest rate, the base rate, has been increased up to about 1,800% post-COVID. From 0.25, now it's 4.75. In fact, just last week, they added 0.25. They added. All because of this hardship that we are talking about. Once your fiscal space is messed up, what it brings is your debt to GDP goes up. And if we keep on financing your project with debt, you are destroying the economy. That one day, then we cannot even have light, water, nothing. What you have to do is to broaden or increase your domestic revenue generation. And that is why, as of now, it will not augur. It's like taking a bitter pill. But I think as a government, my program has got nothing to do with politics or government. That's why I'm struggling. But I think if I have to advise the government,
I can understand. Yeah.
If I have to advise the government, I think we need to strengthen communication and also strengthen open culture system, also strengthen participatory approach, where stakeholders will be brought to the level that they can flow with the decision. And they understand that even if it's hard today, where we are taking us to, we are happy because we're rather going to give us a long-term impact that we can sustain and grow. So I think sometimes the lack of communication also gives advantage to other stakeholders, in my opinion, to also muddy the water sector. People are misinformed and they become jittery, and it affects their decision-making processes. It introduces arbitrariness because they think, hey, business are already dying. You're increasing taxes. Interest rates are going up. Then what's happening to us? So the government of the day should be able to properly engage the stakeholders, iron out these problems, come out with communication that they can flow. And I say, oh, of course it's better. Of course I'm getting nausea or something, but it's going to heal me in the long term and give me probably the stability and the growth that I need, rather than if we don't do it today, probably one day we are going to go entirely out of business. This is what the government has to do. But apart from that, our seminar is geared towards handling most of the fundamentals that are wrong in terms of even our policies as a country, in terms of behaviors of various actors along the value chain as a country, and how we can create the needed relationship, we can harmonize the relationship properly between the economic policies and the industry or trading activities in Ghana, so that importing almost everything, Ghanaian business is not growing organically, always import even common juice, orange.
Which is very sad.
How many domestically owned companies are thriving after independence? How many of them? Ask. How many of them? Just ask yourselves. And even go and sample the millionaires in Ghana. How many of them grew their businesses fundamentally from scratch, build value chains, operations, they understand profitability, they have good structures? How many of them? Individuals. Mostly it's contract, major desk, hard advantage. Once upon a time, they were leading certain market niche or industry or segment, and that they had control. But building businesses is because two things: systematic risk factors. That's the bigger risk factors in terms of our general economy and market issues. And two, unsystematic, which is the specific. So we want to start. Last year, I brought this anomaly. Bank of Ghana, they are aware. I think the government is aware. Stakeholders are aware that under no circumstance should any government on this earth borrow on its domestic market at a higher rate than the banks. It's not done anywhere. All the formulas in the world, from Sharp, all of them, Ross, Deming, and Hannan, all the formulas we used to calculate these things, they are not applicable in Ghana because the risk-free gives you higher returns than the risky assets.
Okay.
So these are the fundamentals and other things that we have.
And I have so many questions to ask you, but let's talk about the seminar in itself. The people that you expect to address the seminar. I know you are going to be one of the main speakers. Who else is going to be there?
We are having Professor Adibanji. She is into mathematics and statistics, and then we are going to have Commercial Bank MD, Mr. Kofi Atumako, and we are going to have another strong woman from, I think, Dutch Embassy, and then we will have roundtable discussions where we will have one lawyer, Lawyer Sheila Sechi, and then we have the head of GUTA, Ghana Union of Ghana Union of Traders Association. Then we have one from AGI, Association of Ghana Industry. So we have strong guys, those from the academia, those from the consultancy level, those from the practical aspect of what we want to do to address the public and make sure that we'll do it annually. It has come to stay.
Yeah, and so who can participate? Is it going for free? Stuff.
Oh, it's free. Even registration on the online and other things. Our organizers have done all of them. As I'm talking to you now, we have way over 100,000, I would say, Ghanaians or even beyond Ghana who have had opportunity to come into contact. I don't know the social media term with this, and those who have signed on this thing, we have thousands of them. We are targeting basically students, entrepreneurs, investors, business community, researchers, and the general public. The only thing that I'm praying is that anything that comes out of it that is important, people should take it serious.
Yeah.
Authorities and policymakers should take it serious.
Very important. So let's go through the time again and the venue for the seminar.
The time is at 9 o'clock. We're
tomorrow, 28th.
Tomorrow at the UPSA. And it's a holiday, so come around and learn something. And because I think it's going to be a ground to do a lot of revelations, a lot of learning together, a lot of sharing ideas. And you see, it's going to come out from those who are experienced, those who can share ideas, and a lot of evaluative techniques. In building strategy, we have 3 lenses. 1, ideas. If you want to build strategies, plan different ideas, then you sit carefully, listen, you see them, you pick good ones, then you develop.
Okay.
Then the next one is evaluative techniques, using diagrams, theories, models to also solve problems. And the next one is experience.
Okay.
When experienced people are talking, you can also learn a lot from. So everybody should come on.
Dr. Stephen Ahmad, FT Minister Trade and Industry, I'm sure it's going to be very exciting. We'll be following.
Oh, by the grace of God, definitely.
Thank you for coming in studio with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on your set.
You're welcome, always.